You know, I wasn't sure. I thought that it was. I thought that there was the blueprint for a very interesting character, but having worked with Guy before and knowing the way things constantly evolve on set, I really didn't want to make too many decisions. You know, I thought there was a nice level of vagueness in the way the character was rendered on the page, and you know, a real opportunity for Guy and I to create something out of this character. But you know, it's every process, you know, directing always has a certain sense of alchemy to it, and every director's process is so wildly different. And Guy's is very orientated to his impulse on the day, you know, and so it's essential to come in ready to play and explore for the first a couple of weeks while a character's being established, because that's when the lion's share of the work's going to be done. I'm very happy that I'm here on this set now, and I'd have been very annoyed at Guy if I didn't find myself on this set. Because when I sat down and met Guy for the first time for King Arthur, I flew myself over to London from LA. I had a week off of work, and he didn't really want to meet me. And I said, well, listen, you know, we had a lot of people in common. I said, well, I want to meet you, so can we just have a cup of tea? And I'll fly over, and you know, no harm, no foul. Even if you don't want me to audition, let me just come in and throw my name in, my hat in the ring. And so I came over, and we had a lovely time. We ended up sitting for 3 hours, and we didn't talk for 1 minute about King Arthur, but we talked for about 2.5 hours about the California marijuana business. And I realized now, when I read this script, that he was just doing research. He realized I knew a little bit about this world just from being on the periphery of it and knowing people that, you know, were very involved in that world. And so I was a good research resource for him in the infancy of this project. So I felt, you know, I felt like I earned my place on this set from, you know, from sharing my knowledge about that world with him.
Yeah, so the lads commit the crime, his boys, and they're not very good at it, i.e. they post it on YouTube and not very clever, but it's found out who did it, and I fall on the sword. I take the bullet for them. I go and see Charlie's character, Ray, and I have a word with him and say, you know, my boys don't know what they're doing, and avail of me as you will until the debt is paid, whatever the debt may be. So I'm pulled into this, yeah, this web of, as I said, nefarious actions and reactions, and therein lies the tale, at least my part of the tale. For me, Guy Ritchie film, you know, apart from the aesthetic, you know, or the world in which the story takes place, particularly in reference to London tales, but it's all in the script, you know, because I know he has a huge part in the construction of the script and the dialogue, and he's even coming up with bits and pieces today. Not that I've been on the set, but the few times I walked by the set and I heard him, you know, suggest a couple of lines of dialogue that aren't written in the script. They're all, of course, in absolute continuity with the sensibility that's being demonstrated, that's, you know, that's on the pages, and it's tasty stuff. It's really, really tasty stuff. Like, I remember the first film of his, like many others that I saw, was Lock, Stock, and just the riff, it's just like jazz, you know, just jazz, and everyone kind of bouncing off each other, and, you know, yeah, all these different notes being hit simultaneously.
I think Guy is quite notorious for it, especially with his scripts that he's written and his directing, or he's written with Ivan, is that you'll go on set thinking you're all that, you know all your lines, you know what you're going to do, you've planned it out meticulously. There's your first mistake. I remember walking onto a set, we were down by Tilbury Docks. I was like, all right, Johnny Big Nuts over here, like, I'm going to do awesome. He comes over, right, fuck the script off, this is what we're going to do. You're going to walk over here, you're going to say this to him, you're going to do that, get in the tent, figure out what you want to say, and I'm going to make it all adult-like. I was just like, all right, let's go. you know, and you have to be flexible and you have to be able to collaborate. And I think that's the most fantastic thing about Guy, is that he's open to new ideas on the spot, a bit of ad-libbing, but then fine-tuning it to get those one-liners or blocks of dialogue which are just memorable throughout, like cinema, you know? I wasn't, you know, this is the first time that I've been to like been able to drop like F-bombs and C-bombs, and do it with venom, you know, and it's really therapeutic. I'm not gonna lie. And I think there's a couple by the canal, that time that we were filming the canal, where I turned around, I was like, oh, you. And Guy's like, Cut, you really enjoyed that, didn't you? I was like, a little too much. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think all Guy's films are stylish in terms of the clothes. For me, I could have gone down the shabby raincoat, private investigator, tabloid guy route, and I did look at that, but I thought it would be more interesting to come at it sideways, and because my character is mad about films, and particularly sort of 1960s films, 1970s films, I thought that he might have based his wardrobe a bit on Francis Ford Coppola or Jean-Luc Godard or people like that, and that's the way I came into it. Glasses are everything, and we found this pair that were kind of Ray-Bans but with slightly red tinted lenses, and then the whole Oxblood theme started, and I'm wearing an Oxblood jacket and Oxblood little boots. I'm thoroughly repulsive.
Guy does this thing called a black box rehearsal, which is very, very early on in the process, where rather than just having a table read, you're sort of up on your feet with props and sets and a whole camera crew, and you've got your lines on teleprompters, and you know, and it's both a way, I think, of breaking the ice, getting used to the crew, getting used to sort of just being on your feet with something. It was challenging for me, to be honest, because I was very early on, I was in a very kind of embryonic place in my process where I hadn't yet made any choices for the character. So it was a bit, for me, sort of cart before the horse, where everything was still just an outline that hadn't been filled in, and nothing had really clicked for me. So if anything, I learned during the black box sort of how far I was from knowing which limb to go out on.
Yeah, which you know, for those of us with women in our lives, it's mostly true. She's when I say consigliere, she's, you know, similar to the relationship I have with my wife. I'll make the final call, the final decision, but I sure want to run it by her before I do that, because she sees some things from afar. She sees the big picture and sees who may be a coming and sees where there might be a pitfall, possible pratfall down the line. She's got a really good view on that. I do as well, but she'll remind me of things. Rosalind will remind me of things. Well, look out for this, and look out for this, and look out for this, without sentiment. And she's a baller, you know. And she's running her own business down here in the garage. And so, you know, our relationship it's a pretty rock and roll relationship. And yeah, she's my last person I go to check in with. And she's my confidant. If there's anybody I can really 100% trust, it's her. And then after that, it'd be Ray. But if there's anyone that I 100% put my trust in, it's actually the keenest cat of them all, which is Rosalind. I'm mainly taking Guy's lead. You know, if you know Guy well enough, yeah, he loves directing films, but not as much as he likes talking about food and fashion. Or food and clothing, excuse me, Guy. Not fashion, clothing. No, his eye for detail and his specific likes and dislikes when it comes to clothing and fashion are very defined. And I've taken his lead because he's got some great ideas and he's got great style. So part of this is, you know, Michael, I'm wearing a lot of what Guy's style is and would be. And I'm happy to be wearing it because I'm really wasn't as interested in it before I got here, but now I've become keenly interested in it. My wife's getting quite a giggle about me and like, what are you starting? You're really at home now, starting to just go out or go to dinner. You're wearing that? Yeah. She goes, oh, geez, you're going to be hell when we get back home, aren't you? I said, yeah, I am. I think it's fun. For me, I think it's the long joke. You're going to have some one-liners in this where you're going to be like, whoa, rewind that, man. What did he just say? What a wicked way to undress somebody verbally. You know, what an original way to put someone in their place. But at the same time, you have the long joke, which for me is the juxtaposition. We've got all these suits and tough guys and aristocrats and things and such and this, and we're going on a shoot. So, but we are what? We're selling weed, man. I mean, it's very juvenile, but yet it's a very legitimate business being run by adults who are very smart, and there are heavy-duty consequences in it. It's not you're at the corner of 11th and 11th Street stealing some weed movie.
She runs her own business. She has her own garage. She's extremely independent. She comes from, Guy and I like to think that she comes from wealth, but parents who are self-made. So by the time she was a teenager, she knew what it was to have money and nice clothes, and she isn't afraid to flaunt that. But she isn't just the trophy wife of a gangster, which is quite refreshing to see one of these characters in a character like Rosalind did a film like this. This is closer to my roots than any other part that I've played in my career. So, often I've been playing, much more well-spoken characters like Lady Mary or American. So for me, it's to play a part that is more of an East End character is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So when this part came along, I was delighted. Coming into this world of these types of films, is something that's quite different. And the costumes are amazing. I mean, to get into these kind of clothes, for me, it's I love it.